For those who weren't able to make this call, but I'm Andy Paller. I'm a vice president at JCC Association. We probably need to have people muted unless you have questions, which you can raise your hand for. You can throw in the chat. Todd and I really want this to be very interactive. This is your time, your hour to ask questions and learn a little bit more about the benchmarking cycle that is upcoming. I am the director of benchmarking, and we are lucky to have with us Todd Rockoff, who is the CEO of the Tucson JCC. Has the distinction of, I believe, participating in benchmarking more cycles than any other JCC on the continent, US and Canada, and has also worked with us as part of our benchmarking faculty. So he's helped to work with other JCCs to digest, interpret, and develop action plans out of their benchmarking results. So he brings lots of different perspectives, and we thought his perspectives are probably much more important than those of the biased cheerleader from JCC Association. Let me tell you what we have planned for you. Most of the call is going to be a chat between Todd and myself. I'm going to do 3-4 minutes of introduction, and then we're going to walk through the process together. And in that conversation, make sure that you not only know what JCC Association is asking you before, but what it feels like for the JCC and how the JCC can be most effective in planning for and implementing its side to make sure that benchmarking has the value we know it can have. As I said, we really want to hear your questions. As we're going through the conversations, the easiest may be to throw it into the chat. We are going to break at about the 2:30 Eastern mark, and just open it up for Q&A. So we'll have that open discussion as well. So let me just start with my very quick introduction. Benchmarking is a program that has been in existence at JCC Association since 2005. Nearly 100 JCCs have participated at least once, most many times. Todd's case, many times. And the theory behind benchmarking is that I guess we have two mantras. One is data that matters. Data that matters means that there's lots of information that you can look at and that you do look at on a daily and weekly basis. But with benchmarking, we're able to apply some statistical analysis to identify the drivers of stronger success, and stronger success in 5 different areas. In financial operations, in user engagement, in developing satisfied, high quality staff with longevity, around Jewish impact on the folks who come to your JCC programs and become members, and with your board. So we're looking at all 5 of those areas, and through the benchmarking data which we collect, we're able to help guide you and tell you that for small JCCs and big JCCs, JCCs on the West Coast and in the South and in the Northeast and in Canada, we find year after year after year that JCCs who do a better job in these couple of dozen metrics have better outcomes, have stronger outcomes. And benchmarking in addition allows you to see how are you doing compared to last year, how are you doing compared to similar size JCCs, or how are you doing compared to any group of JCCs with which you want to compare yourself. So we've given you those all those abilities and flexibility. The last thing I want to say before I open up for discussion with Todd is just a quick 30-second overview of the schedule. So we have opened registration. Applications have been requested by a week from Friday, by July 21st, because we'll spend the month of August getting ready. We're going to ask JCCs to share some contact information, to select when you would prefer your user surveys take place, because we come up with about 9 different survey windows, and we asked you, would you rather have it in early September or late September or October or even the first week of November? So we'll be doing that during August. We will also have a Zoom orientation for everyone in benchmarking, to walk through the process, to talk about the deadlines, to make sure that you're comfortable participating fully. And then September, October is data collection. Data submitted by the JCC, data submitted by your board members, by your members and program participants. And if a JCC missed the spring 2023 leading edge staff survey, an opportunity to take that survey as well, for your staff to take that survey. So let me stop there in terms of introduction, because we're going to cover it all in a little more detail as we move through, and ask Todd to kick us off by answering the most important question: why should a JCC take the time and commit the resources to participating in benchmarking?
So what I would say, and first of all, thank you for including me, and thank you for saying I'm old and been around a long time in a really nice and positive way. So I appreciate that. I think what I have learned over the years is that it's really important and courageous to be willing to look at yourself in the mirror. And participating in benchmarking gives you that opportunity. It provides, you provide information, and then you get an outside perspective of what it looks like inside. And that is well worth the time and effort. And doing it longitudinally does allow you to look at areas that you start to focus on and how you are making an impact on those areas. And then uncovers new things for you to both celebrate and challenge yourself with. So I really encourage people to look at doing this and to doing it over time. It also provides you with an opportunity to create some transparency. Not only is this information important for the exec of the organization to be able to have at their fingertips and to have at the fingertips of their leadership team, but to share across the organization and to really make the opportunity to improve areas where there's opportunity and to advance areas where there's already success, something that is a shared endeavor amongst the entire staff. And then, of course, sharing with the board and having the board be part of celebrating and looking at areas for opportunity for the future.
Thank you. And one of the things that that isn't obvious in the application, but that we want to emphasize in this call, is that every JCC participating in benchmarking has the opportunity to add 3 to 5 custom questions to the user survey. So part of what makes benchmarking powerful is we're asking the same questions in every JCC, and that allows us to analyze both the financial and programmatic responses and the customer feedback with the same consistency. But we recognize that there are JCCs that are preparing for a capital campaign, or they're looking at changes in a certain department, issues that have come up in that community, and this is your opportunity to add your questions to the survey that your folks see. What we do on our end is we'll implement the survey. We will make sure that it's got your logo at the top, the email people get says that this is this is from the Peninsula JCC, signed by the CEO of the Peninsula JCC. But we'll slip in if you're interested, and we strongly encourage you to take advantage of that. We'll slip in a set of questions that are unique to your JCC that allow you to leverage doing this survey and gather some specific data for your JCC. Go ahead, Todd.
No, what I was going to say is I think that the great part about that is that there may be a strategic plan or initiative that you want to test very specifically to your JCC, and that we, the JCCs, don't have to be the expert in writing the question in a way that would fit within the survey. But if we feed that information to Andy and his team, the question will get written in a way that very much fits the methodology that is necessary for survey writing. And it does allow for the reader of the survey to also feel like this sounds like my J. The couple of questions that you may ask specifically to your J will help the survey taker really feel that this is not just a national survey, but it has some local appeal, because the things that you're asking sound like things that we've been hearing from our JCC.
Right. One of the Todd talked about being courageous, and I know that particularly during the earliest years of benchmarking, JCCs held back before participating because they were worried about what would the data say and how would it reflect on them, and did they need to expose themselves to those questions. As the program has evolved, and as more and more JCCs have participated, I think that fear has largely gone away, which moved to the top of the list of reasons why a JCC may be struggling with whether to participate in an amazing opportunity, something you could pay $20,000 to hire an independent consulting firm to do this for you, costs the JCC nothing except time, and the time is not insignificant. And I think that's, since that may be on some of your minds, I wanted to ask Todd to talk about what kind of time we're talking about, and how to make that work for your J.
You know, I won't say, oh, it's no time at all, it's just a little bit of effort. It is effort, but it's effort that's well worth it, because as you begin to budget the time for the benchmarking survey and the leading edge survey, we really get into a cycle of learning about ourselves. That the benchmarking survey really starts in August. There's a big lift to get the financial data and the program data in. And that time can be democratized amongst your staff so that everyone has a piece of it. But once you build it once, then you're repeating it over and over again. Then there's a little bit of a lull, right? There's where the work then is on the association and collaborative strategies to put that together. And then the learning really begins in January, where we get the information back and we can begin action planning as to what we're going to do with what we have learned from our members and users. What does the program data and the financial data say? Then around May, we get into the leading edge cycle. And we should do that. And then those results come out in June, and we're working on the staff side over the summer. So it's a year-round cycle of learning, which helps us to improve. And because leading edge is every year and benchmarking has an A and B year, we really have an opportunity to strengthen our strengths and to look at the opportunities we have and decide which are the ones that we want to tackle. And then we can use benchmarking as both a report card and a tool for advancement. And the same holds true for leading edge. I
I thought that was a great insight. It was sort of an accidental benefit of the association realizing that Leading Edge, which was in many ways doing the same kind of surveying that we did in benchmarking every other year, but was doing it with hundreds of organizations, that with a little bit of effort, we could turn that into the benchmarking survey, which means that part of the work takes place earlier in the year. Your ability to respond to what your staff said on the staff survey can then come earlier in the year before we get into the nitty gritty of benchmarking. And as Todd said, there are, it doesn't all fall on the shoulders of one staff person. Although there is a lot of financial data that will come out of your finance and accounting department. So that's probably the heavy lift. But as you think about participating, the team of staff that make benchmarking work best, first we'll ask you to designate a point person, a benchmarking coordinator. Their role is really to be the quarterback, to make sure all the data and deadlines are met, to figure out who's the right person in the agency to provide membership data. Where does the early childhood numbers come from? Do we go to day camp for the day camp figures? Making sure that the marketing department is aware of the dates for your user survey, because one of the things that makes a huge difference in response rate is the active work by your JCC to tell your members and program participants, there's a survey coming. It's really important. We really want to hear from you. How are we doing? What can we do better? And so marketing plays a role as well. And the pieces generally fit together quite nicely. And we get to, as Todd said, we get to the middle to end of November. The data collection's done. We have validated all of the data that's submitted. We actually will share back with you some preliminary survey results. So you'll see some summary data from the user survey and the board survey by end of October. And then we will move forward with our analysis, allowing you to get your full results January, February. So we've been working to make that the lag time between data collection and release of the data as short as we can, and hopefully that's helpful to you. I mentioned some of the deliverables. In a second, I think I want to go there yet, but in a second, I want to show you the online dashboard that we created. Those of you who have been benchmarking for a long time have memories of the 90-page PowerPoint that we presented to each JCC, that we walked through with your board, and we walked through with different staff teams, that had charts and narrative, and it provided a tremendous amount of information about how your JCC was doing in all of those areas we explore, with comparative data for similar sized JCCs. And then, if you were a JCC who wanted to dig a little deeper, who wanted to understand whether different departments of your staff felt differently from other departments, whether your newer members or your younger members or your participants in certain departments had different feedback for you. And your only recourse at that point was to email us and ask your questions, and we could do some additional analysis on our side. What you'll see in a couple of minutes is that we're putting that power now in your hands to go in, look at your data, filter your data, see who's doing really well in different areas. But before I did that, I wanted to give Todd a chance to talk about the turning data into action process.
What I want to say is a couple of things. One is that when we talked about your marketing department helping promote taking the survey, one of the other things that's really important is when we get the data and we make our action plan and we decide what we're doing, to share that with your community. We heard from you, this is what we heard, and this is what we're doing, because then the next time we go back and ask for their feedback, they know that we take it seriously. They know that we're in a position to listen and make our best effort. And while we may not succeed in every piece of the action plan, it is important that the community knows that we're not just asking them to take a survey to check something off the box. The other thing that's important in terms of what to do and how to design an action plan in no particular order is to, again, democratize that work across the staff. This isn't something that 2 or 3 people on the senior leadership team should take and digest and create the plans. Invite people from across the organization to be part of looking at it and designing what it is that we think we can do in order to make an impact. And if there are areas of specific work that needs to be done in a particular department, make sure that department is actively involved in both understanding, maybe explaining, and certainly then creating a forward motion. Because again, if we are one organization, the way in which we approach this work affects the entire organization, and people should share that ownership of creating those plans. And at the same time, we can't have paralysis by analysis. We do need to move forward and make some plans and not just explain everything away or try to understand things that might be interesting but not useful in helping the organization reach a level of excellence that I know we all strive for.
Well said. One of the things that I'm going to share the dashboard just so you can have a glimpse of it if you haven't seen it up to this point. One of the things you won't see in the dashboard, but that can be incredibly informative, are the comments that folks enter at various points in the survey. Big JCCs will get pages and pages and pages of comments about what members liked, what they didn't like, what happened that they wanted to shout about, good and bad. And that's really the color commentary that brings to life some of the quantitative data that you'll get in the surveys. And it's harder to analyze, it's harder to share, but there's been many JCCs that will pull out all the day camp comments and send them to the day camp department so they can hear what their people are saying, along with looking at the hard numbers of where, how did their day camp families rate the program? What were the other day camps that both those people who used JCC day camp and people who didn't use the JCC day camp, what day camps are they sending their kids to? Or aren't they? Are they making different decisions for their children during the summer? So a tremendous amount of data, and the greater your ability to bring it down to different parts of the agency so they can do their own digesting and come up with their own suggestions about how to proceed, the more powerful benchmarking can be. So let me just very quickly, and we're only going to look at this for a couple minutes. Let me show you the dashboard. Todd has graciously allowed us to look at his data. So you'll see at the top of this that when you go in, you'll see your JCC, but you can choose different size JCCs for comparison, or you could make your own peer group, and you could decide what years you want to look at. So we're looking at 5 years of history for Tucson, 2017, 2019, just before the pandemic, and 2021 in the middle of COVID-19. And here's the kinds of data you'll see when you go into the dashboard. So this first chart is just looking at operating margins. The JCC make money or lose money. So on the left, you see that 2019 was a tough year for Tucson. There was a small net loss of 1.6% after a 3% profit the year before, but a bounce back in 2021. And then you can compare it to the peer group and see whether whether that's in line with or not. And if you're Todd and you're saying, how the heck did JCCs have 9% profitability? The dashboard allows you to look at who are the top 5 for any of these metrics, right? So San Diego killed it in 2021, followed by Seattle and Kansas City. So that ability exists throughout the dashboard. One of the things that that I think JCCs find very helpful in benchmarking is that we ask respondents, which program departments did you and your household use during the past year? And then we come back later in the survey, and for each of those departments, we ask people to rate the quality of the staff, of the program, of the facility, and of the value to local competition. So we're looking at just one teeny bit of that data. We're looking at the fitness department and how people who said they used the fitness department felt about the fitness facility quality. And you can see it's been pretty strong. It dropped a little bit in 2019, was back up in 2021, higher than the peer groups. So this kind of capabilities exists throughout the dashboard. Just a couple other things I want to brag about. So here we're looking at user net promoter. It's a measure that's used throughout the for-profit and nonprofit world. How likely are you to recommend the JCC to a friend or relative? Without getting into the details of that calculation, if you click on a user survey data, you get this heat map. It shows you that our oldest members were the most positive, the highest net promoter scores from 65 to 74 and 75 and under. Much lower in younger folks. You can see that in terms of tenure, pretty consistent. People have been members for a long time, about as happy on this metric as people who were relatively new to the JCC. Jewish respondents, non-Jewish respondents. So these kinds of heat maps allows you to better understand your data. And in addition, we give you the ability to go in and filter. I want to just look at members who have been at the JCC for less than 2 years and see what kind of experience they're having as we all come out of the pandemic and rebuild our programs. That's what we've built into the dashboard. We've got a couple tabs we haven't even touched yet. Obviously, the staff survey, for most of you, it will be the it'll be the results you've already seen from this past spring's leading edge survey, but those data will be imported into the dashboard. And so you'll be able to see those results compared to other JCCs in benchmarking, the same way you can compare them to all JCCs now. And of course, the survey of your board members can be incredibly helpful. How are they feeling about their service on the board? And what are their recommendations in terms of moving forward to be even more effective? So with that, I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to take off these pins and just open it up for conversations.
As you're doing that, what I do want to say is that with the new dashboard, each of us have agency over our own data. We can look and dive as deeply as we want without having to call JCC Association and say, can you look at this for us? Can you give us another hard-coded chart? We have agency to go in as often as we want. And as you establish your planning teams, this data is there for you to put on the screen and use together to really begin to have that planning process be very dynamic. So this has been an incredible evolution of the process.
So, questions.
I have a question.
Rebecca, good
Hi,
morning.
how are you guys?
Good.
Good. So I'm wondering about the leading edge survey. We did participate, but we are integrated with our federation. Are we able to pull out the JCC specific data from that leading edge survey to use for benchmarking?
I'm crossing my fingers, but our planning was such that we'll be able to do that. We
Okay.
actually asked that staff be coded as JCC, Federation, or both, and there are probably 8 or 10 similar organizations who took the leading edge survey. Sometimes there's a Jewish Family Service, sometimes there's a day school. So yes, we expect that we'll be able to pull out the JCC employees.
Great, thank you.
Quiet group.
How long would you say the application process takes if we're trying to, be time aware and efficient?
Just the application process?
Yeah, this would be my first time encountering it.
So the application process is even more streamlined than in the past. So in the resource center, that we've listed the readiness criteria that will make you able to be successful in benchmarking. If those make sense, if the CEO and board chair are on board, it's simply it's like a 3-question online questionnaire that says, we're interested, here's some things we're looking forward to, here are some concerns we have, check the box. That's step 1. Step 2, after we review that, we'll send through DocuSign. We're just sending a form back confirming that it's signed by the chair, it's signed by the exec, it's signed by the chair, and you're done. So the application is really easy. And then what we do in August for everyone, and we've done it since the start of the program, is to make sure everyone knows what the expectations are. We have a help desk that we create that's on board the whole process. Anyone has a question at any point, how do I fill out this form? What do you need for the survey? I'm not sure what to do with this situation. You just send an email to the team. We're typically able to get back within the day, sometimes faster. So we really are working to make sure that there's that we have you have all the help you need to be as successful as you can be.
Time for that July 21st deadline.
That's just for that quick form.
To get
That
it going.
initial form.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, Carly.
Sure.
Brooke, I see your hand.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi. I recently learned that our leading edge results were not as beneficial as they could have been because of the way we set up our information in leading edge. And so my question is, if there is any one part of this benchmarking that perhaps is not, like I'm thinking of the user data, the board data, like that, is it possible that one part skews your whole benchmarking process? Is that a thing? Should I just not worry that our leading edge results are perhaps not as helpful as we'd hoped?
Todd, do you want to respond to that? I think we'd say the same thing.
The benchmarking data does not require the same level of, you can't group people like in leading edge. I know you can decide you want to do aquatics and fitness and this, or you can do it all together. The benchmarking, the user data is the user data. You provide the list of member and user emails that go out, but they're not coded in any particular way. The member or user themselves identifies how long they have been a member. That's not something that you do as an input. So the leading edge, I think, gives you more agility, but also perhaps room to maybe not get out of it exactly what you want. Andy, is that the?
Yeah, when I heard another question too, which was, you know, if our leading edge data is really poor, does that mean, you know, we're wasting our time looking at the other areas of the organization? And I'm gonna caveat that, you know, the results were poor in part because of how we participated and how we set up the structure and who we decided to include. I heard lots of comments along the way and after that JCCs that included, you know, every lifeguard who had a shift for 3 hours a week. They had poor response rates, not surprisingly, and that impacted their data. The process that we go through with every JCC, with Leading Edge as the staff survey and before, is we look at your results and we try with you to understand what are they saying and what's going on. When an association consultant comes to town and works with you to present your results to staff and to the board, if we collectively understand that the staff data isn't as accurate as it could be because of A, B, and C, we'll point that out. We'll say, you know, here's a set of data. It's, you know, it has these flaws because of how we approached it. We're confident that 2 years from now, the data is going to be much better. So let's not spend too much time in the staff area. And by the way, I know one of the things I learned very early from CEOs, the staff piece is really not the board's work. By and large, it's the CEO's work, not the board's work. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on that anyway. So let's focus on the programmatic data and the response from our users. What are they saying? How are they feeling at this point in our history? I would say there's tremendous value from that. And if we need to discount a piece of it, we'll do that together. We won't throw you under the bus because you didn't code staff or you included staff that maybe wasn't wise to include.
Thank you.
And it is valuable. While the staff work is ultimately the staff responsibility, the CEO's responsibility, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't share with the board what we've learned and what we're working on. I think one of the most important things as we participate in Leading Edge and in benchmarking is to provide a wide angle amount of transparency to our board, and then also help with role clarity that this is what we are working on, and we will report back to you on our progress in what we are working on. But it shouldn't be behind the curtain to the degree that you're not allowed to know the results of what happened with the staff. So there is that balance of, yes, there's some things that we maybe should have coded differently or done differently, and there's a reason, but also it's not the burning bush that we should turn our head and not look at.
And I, you know, my experience is that, and I think there are more of them now than there probably were 10 years ago. The board members who love data, you know, that's what they're doing in their business lives. And they come to the JCC board meeting. We've been talking about great programs and the spirit of the day campers and you know, how many people showed up for the book festival. Those folks love having the ability to look at hard data collected by a third party. So it's unbiased and allows them to look at a different dimension of JCC operations. But I agree. I didn't mean to suggest that we would hide the staff data. It just wouldn't be, you know, it wouldn't be 20% of our time, now maybe 10% of our time, and we'd share with the board and we'd explain why. And you'd have JCC Association able to explain that so that you don't have to be defensive about anything in the data. Here's what happened. It was our first time using it as the benchmarking staff survey. So we're all kind of learning together this year in that area. Other questions, concerns? I would tell you, I was very excited at the number of JCCs who signed up for today's call, who haven't been in benchmarking recently or haven't been at all. It is, it is the single part about a benchmarking that I get most excited by. So if you're thinking about it, please lean towards participation. Glad to get on the phone with you after this call over the next week and a half to talk about any specific questions you have. We'd really love to have as many JCCs participate as we can. It not only strengthens the value to the field individually. If we have 50 JCCs better than 40, 60 better than 50, but it also provides a clearer understanding of how the field is doing. We'd love to have as many J's as we can. I'm just looking at chat. There was a question about exporting the data. The dashboard does not export to Excel. It does allow you to export any of the charts, so you can filter the charts and export them filtered or unfiltered to build into a PowerPoint or Word document, but it does not currently allow an export into Excel. But if it's helpful to have some additional analysis, don't hesitate to reach out. I certainly have done that for JCCs. Todd, you did such a good job. They're silent.
Well, then I'm glad everybody will be participating because, for the movement as a whole, the more of us that do participate, the better the data about how we, as a platform for community impact, are making that kind of impact. So I am glad to see so many of us here.
I now have a few JCC Association colleagues on the call. Anything you want to add or any questions you have that would be helpful for the group? All right, Todd, I think we're going to be able to give back 15 minutes to everyone's very busy lives.
Awesome.
Todd, thank you so much for being part of
Thank you,
this.
Andy.
All of you, thank you so much for your interest and for being on this call with us. We hope to see applications in the coming days. Bye, everyone.